All right, everyone, buckle up because we're diving headfirst into the world of AI.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, things are getting pretty wild out there.
Yeah, it's funny. For years, it felt like all this AI talk was mostly just talk. Like it was all hype and no action. But this year, things feel different. Like we finally hit that tipping point and everyone's jumping on board.
Well, that's what we're going to dig into today.
Right.
This whole AI boom and how businesses are actually using it, especially all the stuff with generative AI.
Exactly. We've got this awesome report from McKinsey on the state of AI in 2024. It's based on this huge global survey they did. So we're talking real data, real insights into what's actually happening.
It's like our AI decoder ring, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing that jumps out is this crazy spike in AI adoption.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's gone from like steady 50% over the past 6 years to a whopping 72% just this year alone.
Yeah. That's insane. It really does feel like something shifted. Like companies finally said, okay, enough talk. Let's actually do something with this AI stuff.
And it's not just that more companies are using AI. It's that they're using it in so many more parts of their businesses. Like the report shows that half the companies surveyed are now using AI in at least 2 different functions.
That's huge. It means AI isn't this niche thing tucked away in the IT department anymore. It's becoming a core part of how companies operate across the board. And that brings us to the real rock star of the year, generative AI.
Oh yeah, Gen AI. That's the stuff that writes code, makes music, creates art, like all that stuff that used to seem like sci-fi.
And a mind-blowing 65% of companies are already using it regularly. The average organization is using it in 2 different functions. And when you look at where they're using it, it's all about marketing, sales, product development, and IT.
So we're talking about hyper-personalized ads, chatbots that actually work AI that helps design better products, all that jazz.
Exactly. It's moving beyond the buzzwords and actually delivering real value. And what's really interesting is that it's not just happening in the workplace. People are using Gen AI in their personal lives, too.
Oh, totally. Think about it. You ask your smart speaker for the weather, you get personalized recommendations online, you might even play around with an AI image generator. All that's Gen AI. And the adoption isn't just happening in the US either.
Right. We're seeing huge increases in Gen AI use in Asia Pacific and Greater China. And industries like energy and professional services are jumping in head first. It's a global phenomenon for sure.
Okay, so we've established that AI and Gen AI in particular are absolutely exploding. But here's the million-dollar question. Is it actually making a difference? Are companies seeing real, tangible benefits from all this investment?
That's the key question. And the report actually dives into this by looking at how industries are budgeting for AI, both Gen AI and more traditional analytical AI.
And what did they find?
Well, what's interesting is that the investment levels are pretty similar between the two across most industries, which suggests that companies are recognizing the unique strengths of each type of AI.
So it's not like one is completely overshadowing the other. They both have their place.
Right.
Exactly, but it's not just about how much money's being thrown at AI. It's about where those investments are actually paying off. And that's where things get really interesting because the report actually breaks down where companies are seeing the biggest impact, both in terms of cost savings and revenue increases.
Okay, so spill the beans. What are the big takeaways?
Well, on the cost side, human resources is seeing the biggest decreases thanks to Gen AI.
Really? HR? That's kind of surprising. I would have thought it'd be something like manufacturing or logistics.
It might seem counterintuitive at first, but when you think about it, it makes sense.
How so?
Well, AI can automate a ton of HR tasks,
Hmm.
like screening resumes, onboarding new employees, even personalizing training, which frees up HR professionals to focus on more strategic stuff like building relationships and fostering a positive work environment.
Ah, I see. So it's not about replacing humans. It's about augmenting their abilities.
Exactly. And on the revenue side, supply chain management is seeing the biggest gains from Gen AI.
Makes sense. AI is great at optimizing complex systems like supply chains,
Right.
predicting changes in demand and making everything run more smoothly.
Precisely. Which ultimately leads to higher profits. Now, it's worth noting that analytical AI is also delivering big wins, but in different areas. Like it's proving super effective at cutting costs in service operations and boosting revenue in marketing and sales.
So basically, each type of AI has its sweet spots.
Exactly. Understanding those nuances is key for companies looking to maximize their AI investment. But before we get too carried away with all the positive stuff, we need to address the elephant in the room. Risk AI, especially Gen AI, comes with its own set of challenges, and companies are starting to realize that ignoring those risks can have some pretty serious consequences.
Okay, so let's talk about risk. What are the biggest concerns around AI right now?
Well, the report highlights the top 3 concerns that organizations have about Gen AI, and the number 1 worry is inaccuracy.
Inaccuracy. meaning like that AI getting things wrong.
Exactly. Followed closely by worries about intellectual property theft and cybersecurity.
Makes sense. Those are all legitimate concerns, especially when you're dealing with powerful technology like AI.
Right. And what's interesting is that fear of AI taking everyone's jobs has actually decreased compared to last year.
Oh, really? That's kind of surprising. Why do you think that is?
I think people are starting to understand that it's not about AI replacing humans. It's about how we can use AI to augment our abilities and work together more effectively.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's about collaboration, not competition.
Right, exactly. But going back to that top concern about inaccuracy, it's not just a hypothetical fear. The report found that almost 25% of companies surveyed have already experienced negative consequences because their Gen AI got something wrong.
Oh, that's a pretty sobering statistic.
It is. It really underscores the importance of understanding and mitigating these risks.
So how do companies do that? How do they make sure their AI is accurate and reliable?
Well, there are a number of strategies companies can use, and we'll delve into those later in our deep dive. But for now, the key takeaway for you as the listener is that while AI offers immense potential, it also requires careful planning and responsible implementation. You can't just throw technology at a problem and hope for the best.
Words to live by. So we've explored the AI boom, the potential benefits, and the inherent risks. Now let's talk about how companies are actually putting Gen AI into practice. Are they building their own super sophisticated systems from scratch, or are they taking a different approach?
Well, the report identifies three main ways that companies are implementing Gen AI, and I think you'll find this quite insightful. They call them takers, shapers, and makers.
Takers, shapers, and makers. I like it. Okay, break it down for me. Who are these different types of AI users?
So the takers are companies that are going for those ready-made, off-the-shelf solutions. They're basically plugging and playing with existing AI tools.
Makes sense. That's probably the easiest way to get started with AI.
Right. Exactly. Then you have the shapers who are taking those off-the-shelf tools and customizing them to fit their specific needs. They're tweaking things, adding features, and really making the AI their own.
Ah, so they're not just settling for the basic version. They're getting under the hood and making modifications.
Precisely. And finally, you have the makers who are building their own custom AI models from the ground up. These are the companies that have the resources and the expertise to create truly bespoke AI solutions.
So it's like a spectrum from basic to advanced.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that the report found that those off-the-shelf solutions are the most popular right now, especially in industries like energy, tech, and media.
Makes sense as a starting point.
Right.
But I imagine that as companies get more comfortable with AI, they'll start to move towards more customization.
You're absolutely right. The report suggests that customization is likely the key to unlocking long-term competitive advantage.
Why is that?
Well, think about it. If everyone's using the same basic AI tools, it's hard to stand out from the crowd. The real game changer is being able to tailor those tools to your specific data, your unique processes, and your overall business goals.
So it's about creating AI that's truly aligned with your company's strategy and objectives.
Exactly. And the report also sheds some light on how long it takes to get Gen AI up and running. Typically, it takes between 1 and 4 months, but as you can imagine, customization takes a bit longer.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
The more complex the implementation, the longer it's going to take. So that brings us to a crucial question. Who's actually excelling in this world of AI? Who are the high performers who are not only using the technology, but actually seeing significant returns on their investment?
That's what we're going to dive into next. It's all about understanding what separates the AI leaders from the laggards and what lessons we can all learn from their success.
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
All right, let's go.
These high performers, they're not messing around. They're going all in on AI, using Gen AI in way more business functions than the average company.
That's right. They're not just sticking to the obvious stuff either, like marketing or product development.
Exactly. They're using it in functions you might not expect, like risk management, legal finance, even supply chain.
So they're really thinking outside the box. They're seeing the bigger picture and how Gen AI can be applied across all these different departments.
Precisely. And if you look at Exhibit 11 in the report, it lays out all the best practices these high performers are following.
So it's not just luck. They're actually doing things differently.
Right. Exactly. They have a clear strategy. They're investing in training their teams, and they're taking risk management seriously. It's a holistic approach.
One thing that really stood out to me was their focus on customization. Remember we talked about those 3 archetypes? The takers, the shapers, and the makers?
Yeah.
Well, these high performers are much more likely to be shapers or makers, meaning they're either customizing existing solutions or building their own AI from scratch.
It's like they understand that cookie-cutter AI isn't going to cut it if you want to stay ahead of the game.
Makes sense. So it's not just about the technology itself. It's about having the right skills and the right culture in place to really make the most of it.
Absolutely. They're investing in both technical and non-technical skills, and they're creating a culture that embraces experimentation and continuous improvement. They're not afraid to try new things and learn from their mistakes.
Speaking of improvement, the report also highlights how these high performers are much more likely to incorporate testing, validation, and iterative learning into their AI development process.
Yeah, it's all about constantly tweaking and refining their AI based on real-world data and feedback.
So it's not like a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Definitely not. It's a continuous process of improvement and adaptation,
Yeah.
which is essential in a field that's evolving as quickly as AI.
Now let's be real. Even the high performers are facing challenges.
Oh, right.
The report talks about some of the roadblocks they're running into. And this is where I think it gets relevant for all of us, no matter what industry we're in or what role we play.
Oh, for sure. One of the biggest hurdles, unsurprisingly, is data.
Data. In what way?
Well, they're struggling with things like data governance, how quickly they can integrate new data sources, and even just having enough good quality data to train their AI models effectively.
So it's not just about having data. It's about having the right kind of data.
Precisely. And it's about being able to manage that data effectively. So this really underscores the importance of having a solid data strategy in place, even if you're not actively implementing AI right now.
It's like data is the fuel that powers AI.
Right. Exactly. If you have low quality fuel, your engine's not going to run smoothly.
So whether you're a data scientist, a business leader, or just someone who uses data in their daily work, understanding how to manage and leverage data effectively is mission critical in this age of AI.
Couldn't agree more. The report also points to challenges with operating models, like high performers are finding it difficult to implement agile practices.
It basically means they're having trouble adapting and innovating quickly.
Exactly, and that's a problem because in the world of AI, speed is everything. So this tells me that just adopting the technology isn't enough. You need to have the right organizational structures and processes in place to support it.
It's about creating an environment where AI can truly thrive.
Well said. So we've seen the AI landscape is both incredibly exciting and incredibly complex, and there is immense potential for those who are willing to embrace the challenges and learn from the early adopters. But where do we go from here? What can we take away from all this and apply to our own work and lives?
That's the big question.
Right.
What are the key takeaways for our listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway is that AI is no longer a distant future. It's happening now. The choices we make today will determine how we navigate this transformative technology and whether we harness its power for good or fall behind.
It's not about being a tech whiz or anything.
Yeah.
It's about having a mindset of continuous learning, being adaptable, and understanding the potential impact of AI on our world.
Absolutely. It's about being proactive and shaping the future rather than just reacting to it. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought-provoking question. Given how quickly AI is evolving, what steps can you take today to prepare for the future?
Ooh, I like that. So whether that's exploring new AI tools, upskilling in your current role, or even just staying informed about the latest developments, taking action now is essential.
The future is being written right now, and we all have a role to play in shaping it.
So we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive.
Yeah.
Right? From this massive AI boom to the challenges companies are facing to what the high performers are doing differently.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I think it's important to step back for a second and think about the bigger picture here.
Totally. This isn't just about some cool new technology. This is about AI fundamentally changing how industries work, how we work, maybe even what it means to be human.
It really does feel like a whole new era, right? And we're only just starting to grasp what it all means.
Yeah.
But one thing's for sure, with all this potential comes a huge responsibility.
You're telling me we got to make sure we're using AI ethically for the benefit of everyone, not just a select few.
That's the heart of it, you know? We can't just focus on the tech. We got to have those tough conversations about the social and ethical and even philosophical questions that AI brings up.
Like, what are the potential downsides? What are the unintended consequences? We got to be thinking about that stuff now, not after it's too late.
Exactly. Like, how do we make sure AI doesn't create even bigger gaps between the haves and have-nots? How do we protect privacy in a world that's driven by data? These are questions we all need to wrestle with.
And it can't just be the tech people or the politicians having these conversations. It's got to be everyone.
Right.
You got it.
We all have a role to play in shaping the future of AI, and that starts with being informed, getting involved, asking those tough questions.
It's not about sitting back and watching it all happen. It's about being proactive,
Yeah.
shaping the future we want to see.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to challenge our listeners. Don't just be passive observers of AI. Be active participants.
Yes. Explore those new tools. Question everything. Engage in those critical discussions about the future we're building.
The future of AI isn't some predetermined thing. It's being written right now, and we all have a hand in shaping that story.
Love it. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope this exploration has given you some valuable insights and maybe even sparked your curiosity about this amazing world of AI.
Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep asking those tough questions.
We'll see you next time.